like if you feel as if ever something is off, I highly recommend that you do not go down that route any longer and go take down a different path, because in all likelihood it's your body, your higher self, your pineal gland, your third eye telling you that something is not correct. Welcome back to episode 12 of Heavenly Delusion. If you have not watched the other 11 episodes, I highly recommend you going back and watching those, or watching the other 11 reviews that I ended up doing on this series prior to watching this video. With that out of the way, I want to also let you know that this episode is a bit darker than some of the other episodes have been. So if you are unaware of that, or if you do not want to feel a certain way, I highly recommend not watching this, because it did leave a pit in my stomach. I did not like watching it at all, but I just want to get that out of the way before jumping into the review that I am going to be offering to you right now, because this is a very dark episode. So basically, I'm going to touch on this first, and we'll touch on some of the other stuff as we end up going. So she finally, the girl ends up finally finding, like, asking, like, hey, do you know this man in the picture? It's like, oh my, what's his name? Like, that's the chief, Robin. And then it's just like, is Robin here? And it's just like, let me see him. Did you find him? She's running to find him, yada, yada, yada. Trying to find all these different places. They go into this other place. Like, all right, we're going to stay here. And it's just like, I'll be back. Make sure that you want to go by yourself. Because he could just tell, like, so I'm supposed to be your bodyguard, because it's just like, okay, you want to go alone, right? It's like, what makes you say that? Are the reason that you're heading to that place? The guy that you've been looking for all these years could be there. It's just like, go and take a look first. He's so happy. She's like kind of happy about that as well too. So it's like, I'll be back, so make sure you wait for me. But he's just like waiting. He's like, something feels odd. And if you notice this too, like, he does end up scratching. So like, there's this thing in spirituality called your pineal gland, and your pineal gland is in the back of your eye. Like, it's basically the God number, or the God figure. So like, if we look up, let's do it this way, Pineal gland. If you look at this, if I go to images, so the pineal gland is in the back of your mind. It kind of looks like an angel or wings, if I can find the right one. God, let's do it this way. Pineal gland God. So like, a lot of people talk about these videos that like, this is our way of being connected to the universe, because it's basically in our eye. So like, if you look at this right here, this is what it looks like in the brain. It looks exactly like what it did back in ancient Egypt as well too, which is pretty interesting to think about, that like, this is like, the pineal gland is right in here, and yet it looks like the third eye. So it's almost our way of being able to see the eye within ourselves, because like, it has no real significance other than like to be able to prone for these certain like ideas or notions or whatever it may be. And I believe it was an episode or two ago where I was talking about God, and then it comes into this said frame, because like, I'll be sitting around from time to time, and I'll feel a tension right here in between within my third eye. And you can do the exact same thing yourself as well too. Like, grab your middle finger, basically close your eyes, and then like hover right between like where your eyebrows are, and like hover there, and you'll start to feel a sensation. As you start to feel that sensation, just focus on that feeling within your eye, and you can start to develop this characteristic or this trait to be able to see into the future. At least that's what I've been able to do. You might be able to do it in different ways. Like, even last night I was at the gym, and I was talking with this other girl. Not even talking with her first, but like, I felt the sensation in my third eye. I turn around, or I look around, and then I see this girl that I haven't seen in a little while. Her and I have a conversation. It's like, okay, so there's always a signal that's being touched in some way, shape, or form. And he noticed that within this said frame of him being able to touch his third eye, and why his eyes look down, and just how he is, and how his facial expression, the animators decided to show his facial expression, because it was really foreshadowing like what was going to be coming. And that's why he ends up, I'm telling you, that's why he ends up scratching his third eye, is because he's like, this is interesting. Like, and the third eyes, you can see it in many different cultures, all around the world. So like, if we come in here and we just do this, and then we come in here, it's like, everybody in the spiritual community and in the world is like talking about the third eye. Like, it's big into Buddhism. It's big in like other cultures. And like, once you get it open, this happens in Doctor Strange as well too, but we're not going to touch on that right now. But like, if you can touch into the third eye, you can start to see things that you haven't originally seen. And that's exactly what he ends up doing in this scene right here, when he ends up scratching his forehead. I'm delaying the inevitable, because I don't want to talk about the thing that happens in this episode, because it really is a dark episode. Because like, it's been 5 years since they ended up coming together. I'm still sticking with she, but it was also him. He looked up to Robin for so long that like, it's so tough, dude. Has been on this journey trying to find him, and then once he finally does, there's a weird, like, this to me is not like a face of like happiness. Like, this is a face to me of like pure shock and disgust, and like it's not the ideal face that needs to be seen in this scene right here, and I don't like that. And then it goes over to like this red blinking room, which there's probably some symbolism there too. I don't know what that would be quite right now off the top of my head, but it's like, oh, we're being attacked. And it's like, it's as if they were waiting for for me to return, but like, where did she go in the first place? Like, where did she go? Maybe that's in the last episode, why she wasn't in her chair. And you see all these things, and I watched this other video too, and maybe you watched it as well. One of the dudes was talking about how like this tomato right here was like the symbolism for certain things, but I don't agree in his conclusion of what the tomato symbolizes, because I saw it in a different way, and I'm going to touch on that here in a brief second. But like the old lady is like, push the chair quicker, geez, and she's like, screw it, you're so useless, and she just starts booking it, bro. Like, she just books it all over the place, and then all of a sudden she's like, he's trying to figure out like which one's the real baby, which one's not the real baby. I don't know. More questions, more open loops that I will never find the answers to. Maybe you know the answers to them. If you do, let me know down in the comments, because I like this being more of a conversation more than a monologue. So just keep that in mind. But there's the tomato again, and it's just like, is it over? Maybe something. The teachers are looking like, I've always wondered if there was something beyond the wall. Me too. They end up walking, seeing this. Sorry for the wait. They end up having a different conversation. Yada, yada, yada. Talking about like, it's just like, I'm looking at Kiriko when I'm talking to you like this, but your expressions are just like Hikaru's, which is weird. You got the Kiro's voice as well too, but the way you speak is like Hikaru. I see your mind, but could be different. So it's like she finally gets the doctor's name, which is great because that's the main ideal. Robin's just a pure fucking dick, but we'll touch on that here in a second. So it's like Sakoto is the one that ends up doing that. So do you know where he is? It's like, nope, no clue. Left looking, been looking for him for so long. And it's just like, then a bunch of other things happen, as they always do. And Izumi was still alive. I cannot remember where Izumi was at, and stayed at his place for 2 years, it looks like, doing lots of different research around like plants and edibles and all these other things. And it's like, hey, take a bath before you go. I already filled up the tub, which is a little weird. I know it's been 5 years. Let me take this back to maybe the tomato does symbolize that. I was looking at the tomato in a different way, but like then the tomato starts to crack open after that little brief second. But see, that's the thing, dude. Like, once it cracks open, then I'm like, oh, it's because like this wall is cracking open. But maybe it's a little bit different. This was my interpretation. I'm like, oh, because if you think about it, in all these other episodes prior to then, there was this other girl, which I think that we'll be able to see her. So this girl right here, this one, where is she? Where's she at? Where's she at? I just saw her. It was not her. It's the girl that has the ears that go up that I was talking about on the last episode. It's this one right here. She was always the woman that was watering like the tomato plants and like there we go. That's right. I just saw it, dude. I know you saw it too. Her. She was the one that was watering the tomato plants this whole time. So that's why when I see the tomato like break right here in this scene right here where it just breaks a little bit and then it goes to this hole and then it shows her, is because it's like, oh, she's stepping out into the world. Like, she decided to break through and like let the juices flow, because then the tomato's here. Like, the tomato, this is what I don't like about the other video that I watched, and I probably didn't need to watch the other video first, but I just did not like how he ended up giving his symbolism. So I'm sharing a little bit different because that's what I can do, just as much as you can do it as well too. But like, then the tomato starts to leak, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. Like, but then it does cut back after the tomato does break. But that's where I'm saying, like, it cuts back to the other scene, which maybe that does mean that something bad is going to happen to her. I don't know. I saw it as more of like, when this tomato breaks, it's like, oh, it's because they actually left. And the one that was taking care of the tomatoes decided to be the first one to take that first leap into the unknown, just as much as maybe she's doing right now as well too. So it's like, when you shower, run the water cold, then run it hot slowly. Here's the towels. Like, there's her clothes and everything like that. She's enjoying her nice little bath. Just good. That, like, it's just like, wow, he's done a lot of work. He's been able to make a town with both water and food. Like, it's incredible. And it's just like, I was afraid. like with her eyes like that. Maybe we'll use this as the thumbnail on that, because like that's a very morbid photo. As you can tell, like even in this frame right here, like there's this fear in her eyes. Like somehow she knows like what's gonna happen before it ends up happening. And this is something that like our bodies and our minds and our intuition is capable of doing. So like if you feel as if ever something is off, I highly recommend that you do not go down that route any longer and go take down a different path, because in all likelihood it's your body, your higher self, your pineal gland, your third eye telling you that something is not correct. And it's just like she's so glad that she has Robin, but it's also messed up that she does, because what ends up doing, and this is where it's just like, dude, see, this is where I see more of the symbolism, because it's more like in an order. So it's like she's freaking out right here, and it's just like I was afraid, I was so scared, but it's fine now. But it's like the way her body's showing that is not saying that she's fine at all. And then it pans over to like, will sis be okay without this? And she's like, fuck, dude. She did need that, because now she's all happy. Like when she has like, there's these hair dryers that are like helping her out. And as you can see now, like the clothes aren't here anymore, but her shoes are. And in the last scene, like when she first started getting all cleaned up and everything like that, there was a basket of clothes, which was great for her. And that's when she like ends up leaving. And she's just like, hey, Robin, my clothes aren't here. And I've warmed them up in the room. Just come look at that. And then the light's freaking out. So like something's about to happen. He's going out to get some food. It's like, no, you're both really interesting kids. And the way that the sinister look, dude, like you can already tell that something's just not going to work. Something bad is going to happen. I don't like when things like this happen. It just leaves a weird feeling in my stomach. She ends up just grabbing her from the bottom of my heart, which I do not like that. Put these on. And then the kids finally get on the outside, because I guess maybe there's some symbolism there as well too, that you could see of like, oh, this whole thing, this whole world. Wow. Okay. So this whole world that these kids right here had, they always thought that they were safe and protected in this world, in heaven, basically. Just as much as like she was happy about like finding Robin for the 5 years. And then when she finally is confronted with the reality of how Robin actually is, like the kids stepping out of heaven as well too, of like, oh, this person, this place was not what I originally imagined it to be. It never was. Like it was always just a delusion. It was a fantasy. Like it wasn't real. And then you step out and it's like, oh, this whole different world exists in ways that I didn't even know it existed in. And like he's being a good dude, because this guy, obviously not Robin. Robin's a fucking dick. You can't bring that with you. And it's just like, he's like, oh, okay, maybe I will stay here. But he's like, no, I'm just going to go eat at home. Like that was his whole thing. He ends up going back here. Here's all the messed up shit that I was talking about, where it's just like homeboy. He's not even a homeboy either. Like he's just making like this whole thing is like, who's in bed with me right now? Is it your sister? Like watch me do all these things to your sister. It's like, stop it. It's just like, it's so fucked, dude. It's not right. It's really, really not right. It does not leave a good spot on my stomach. It doesn't leave a good spot on your stomach either. And this is where I say, like, you can have this, I guess, idea of this person, of the past. But, like, the past is never the same. The past is always going to be different. The person that you once idolized can become somebody completely different. And the person that you once despised can become somebody that you truly admire. Like, it doesn't have to ever be the same, because people are always changing. I know you're always changing. I know everybody else is always changing. All you can ever do is realize that the person that you are right now can be a completely different person that you were 5 minutes ago. It does not have to be the same person. You do not have to have the same conversations. You do not have to have the same interactions. And being open and willing to realize that maybe everything that you had once known, being trapped in this place, that maybe there is something outside of it. Maybe there's a different way of thinking. Maybe there's a different approach. Maybe there's a different way of viewing the world. Maybe the thing that you've had on your mind this entire time for the past 5 years turns out to be something that was not the thing that you wanted it to be in the first place. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's the realization that like, okay, I don't have to lose hope over this. Like I can still like be hopeful and joyful that maybe just because there's some bad people in the world doesn't mean that everybody is going to be bad, because there will always be bad people, but there's not always going to be bad situations. So if you're able to overcome and realize that some of the things in your life have brought you to the place that you needed to be brought to, all of a sudden you can become free and you can start to live in a different way than you had ever lived beforehand, because you realize that maybe these fascinations or these ideas that you have had in your mind are only a perception of the past, of wanting to have that good feeling again, but that good feeling may or may not ever come again. So instead of like relying on the past, why not create new stories? Why not create a new scenario? Why not create new memories like these two do right now? Instead of having like this goal of trying to find this person that she spent 5 years on, because if you do that, then maybe you'll have like these messed up situations come into your world, which is so screwed up, so it's just wrong. Or what you can do on the other side is you can come over here and you can be like, hey, you know what? We can make new memories together instead with new people. Because I talked about this a couple weeks ago, and like, it's always nice being able to go back to those times, but it's also great being able to create new memories and moving forward in the ways that you know how to move forward in. Because the more that you move forward, the more that you continue moving in the at least a good direction, you're going to start to find more things, and sometimes maybe your beliefs are going to be broken or your reality is going to be busted down, and you're going to have some messed up fucking scenarios that end up coming into your world. Or you can also have the opportunities to be able to escape the place that you're in the first place, because now she's able to let go, which I'm going to be talking about that on the next episode. So you can subscribe to the channel and be tuned in for more videos for the last episode that is coming out tomorrow. And with that being said, I'll touch on maybe some more videos with some other concepts a little bit later. But people are always changing. Like, just because they were good in the past doesn't mean that they'll be good in the present. And wherever you're at right now, you don't have to be in that same place 5 minutes from now, 10 minutes from now, an hour from now, a week from now. Like, you can always change your entire life in a matter of an instant. Like, instead, you can start to go to the gym. You can go into more productive things. You can start to read books. You can meditate. You can journal. You can go on a walk. You can eat healthier. Like, you can make a decision to change your life in a matter of an instant. Like, her decision going to see Robin changed her entire life, just as much as maybe you going to see somebody else that you don't need to be going to see could change your entire life. Like, you can have a kid one day and then all of a sudden that changes your whole life. Like, there's so many different options. This video could blow up and all of a sudden I could have a completely different life. Like, there's so many different ways that things can change in a matter of an instant. Like, change does not happen overnight. Like, this single event that happened to her changed her life. It changed her perspective. It changed her view of who Robin actually was as a person. And in that case, it's going to make her somebody stronger if she decides to go down that route. Because every instance, every interaction, every conversation, every feeling, every conversation allows us to grow and change and evolve in a positive and beneficial way when we are open and receptive to looking at the world in that regard. So I just want to let you know that regardless of what you're looking for, it's the exact thing that you need, because it's going to be bringing you down to your life of where you need to go. And then this small little section, sometimes if you don't know who you are or what you want, it can be very hard to fill out documents and forms like you see them doing right here in this said scene. I hope that works. I did my best in this video. It's tough. These are always weird topics that most people don't like talking about, but when they are shown, at least they're shown in a good way within this anime. Not like a good way, but like in like the right way. It wasn't like over, like they just did it in a grown-up way, basically, of showing that, like, yeah, there are messed up people in a messed up world, and you have to be cognizant and cautious of the people that you do interact with and you do come in contact with, and then being able to trust your intuition as well too, that like, maybe something does feel off, maybe things don't feel right, and then hopefully being able to evolve and grow your stuff from there. So that being said, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in tomorrow's last episode. So thank you again, and I'll talk soon.